Hey guys! I don't know if a video started like a couple seconds ago because sometimes recording videos on this computer cracks me up. Okay, hey, welcome to English for today. We're talking about compliments. So, what are compliments exactly? Well, just to give you an introduction, there's going to be a lot of compliments that we talk about today, but compliments, look what it says, it basically means that it completes something, right? Compliments complete something. So you remember you have for a sentence subject, verb, complete, thought. Well, your complements are the things that sometimes need to complete the thought when the subject and the verb cannot do it by themselves, okay? Some things that would be good to have for this lesson would be your workbook that you're going to do your exercises in today, the 3 through 5. Your grammar book, okay, because I'm going to show you in the sections that you can get more examples and definitions and stuff like that for it. And this in your binder, okay? Sometimes, guys, I'm not going to tell you that your stuff is in your binder to give you some notes, and this is not always going to be there. This is there because I thought you weren't going to have your book. But for now, you have both, so this will really help you in case you need to go back and refer to this instead of referring back to the video. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, just like I told you, complements complete the meaning of the sentence. Go over to page 8 in your grammar book. Page 8, right here. It does say in your exercises today that it's going to be 2.26 to 2.27 for number 3. But honestly, this whole section right here, you guys, 2.22 all the way to 2.37, I believe. No. Pardon. 2.27. And then to 2.31 is going to give you, so basically 2.22 to 2.31 is going to give you all of the information that you need to complete your 3 exercises today, but so will this video, but that's to refer to it in case you need it. So look, steps to locating a complement. How do you find a complement? Well, just like you find everything else in a sentence, you start with your verb, then you find your subject, and then you ask who or whom or what after the verb. So first what we're talking about is general complements. We're not going to call it all the names that they're about to call it, but then you will for your homework today, okay? So for right now, how do you find a complement? Look what it says right there in the note. No matter what kind of complement it is, you will never find it in the what? Complements cannot be within prepositional phrases. Let's talk more about that. Remember, and I did the same thing on the homework from exercises 1 and 2, explaining what prepositions are. Prepositions show how a noun or a pronoun is related to some other word in the sentence. In, on, above, off, out, in, inside, outside, right? I'll show you a list of them. Here we go. Here's the most common list of prepositions in English. Remember, you had to memorize those, and we're not going to right now. I think I already told you that in the other video. But remember what we talked about one year? Anything that you can describe something, an object in relation to a table with. It's on the table, it's under the table, it's beside the table, it's around the table, it's off the table, it's upon the table, let's see, between the tables, below, behind, in the table, after the table, before the table, at the table. Okay, all of those are going to be your preposition words, and you will not find complements inside phrases that begin with prepositional words. Never, ever, ever. Okay, so you got to be careful with that. As soon as you see a preposition word, there's a preposition phrase, and nothing will be found inside of that for complements. Not only are there just words that are prepositions, but there's also prepositional phrases, according to, as for, because of, by way of, etc., etc. Okay, so again, we'll never complement those phrases. Okay, so here we go. Let's practice trying to find some of our complements, okay? Look what it says right here. Julianne read Little Women. Okay, the first step is to do what? Find the verb. What's the verb? Read. Find the subject. Julianne. And then we ask who, whom, or what, right? Julianne read what? She read Little Women. So that is the complement. Look at the next one. I ate eggs for breakfast. Verb is ate. Complement, subject, I. I ate what? Eggs. So eggs is your complement. Look right there. For is a what? Preposition. So breakfast would never be a complement. Okay, look at the last one. Keith is our class treasurer. What's the verb? Is. What's the subject? Keith. Keith is what? Treasurer. So treasurer is the complement. Look, I'll show you. Okay, so as you can see, here you go. Here are your subject, verb, and complement to complete your thought. Okay, I'm not going to tell you these ones. How about you look at them and decide what you think are the subjects, the verbs, and the complements. And then I'll show you the next screen where it has the answers. Okay, if you need more time, just stop the video and find the subjects, verb, and complements. But here you go. Here are the answers. I'll show you to them right now. Okay, so we have should see is your verb. You should see. You should see what? Motorcycle. So motorcycle is the complement. The second one is the verb. The Lord is what? Strength and shield. So those are the complements. Okay, now we're going to start talking about the different types of complements. We have some that are complements that describe and are associated with the action of the verb, and then there are some that are talking about the subject, and they have to do a lot with linking verbs. Okay, so right now we're talking about complements that are concerned in some way with the action of the verb. So we have 3 that are included in that group. We have the direct objects, indirect objects, and objective complements. Okay, this is where you really got to start paying attention for the exercises that you're going to do for today. So let's look at the instructions for these exercises. Look at exercise 3. Identify the italicized complements. So they're going to give you what the complements are, but you have to identify what kind they are. In the blanks, you either have to write that it's an IO for indirect object or OC for objective complement. So I'm going to show you direct objects, indirect objects, and objective complements right here. So pay close attention because look what it says in exercise 4. Exercise 4, you identify the italicized complements between DO for direct object and PN for predicate nominative, which is in the next group. So I'll explain those and what the difference is between the two. And then exercise 5, you need to determine all the complements. Are they DO for direct object, IO for indirect object, OC for objective complement, PN for predicate nominative, or PA for predicate adjective? So now you're going to need to know all of them, which is why I'm explaining them in this presentation right now. So pay close attention. Okay, let's do it. Okay, a direct object follows an action verb. Guys, that is huge. Okay, an action verb is one that does an action, right? As compared to linking verbs, which you're going to find a list of them, 1 in your packet and 2 in your book on page 10 when we get there, because the other ones like predicate nominative, predicate adjective, you're going to be able to identify those really, really quickly if you can see that what you're looking at is a linking verb and not an action verb. So just make sure you have it in your head. Direct objects come after action verbs. That's super important. Also, direct objects receive the action. What do I mean by that? You're about to see. Direct objects answer the questions who or whom after the verb. So they receive the action, and you can tell what they are by asking who or whom after the verb. Okay, so remember that direct objects come after action verbs. They receive the action of the verb, and they are found by asking who or whom. So look at the first one. Thomas Edison invented the phonograph. What is the action verb in that sentence? Tell me. Invented. Okay, so Thomas Edison invented. So then ask yourself, invented what? Invented the phonograph. So what is phonograph? The direct object. Okay, invented what? The phonograph, so it's the direct object. Look at the next one. Father stared at the dent in the car. What's the action verb? Tell me. Stared. Okay, stared what? At the dent in the car. What's the direct object? Nada. Nada, because look at both of those. Those are both prepositional phrases. At is a preposition, so at the dent is a prepositional phrase. In is a preposition, so in the car is a prepositional phrase. And you can never find complements inside a preposition. Look, I'll show you. So there you go. There is no complement, direct object in the second sentence because there's only prepositional phrases. Okay, in this one I promise that there is a direct object, so what is it? Go ahead and find the action verb and find the direct object. Okay, let's look at it. Did you find two? Because there's actually two. Okay, here we go. Swept is the action verb. Kayla swept what? She swept the kitchen and the dining room. Those are your two direct objects. Okay, here, let's do indirect objects now. It makes sense that direct objects are called direct objects because they directly receive the action. So indirect objects are going to have a relationship to direct objects, but they're not going to actually receive the action. They're going to receive something else. Look at it. Okay, indirect objects precede a direct object. Okay, that means that they're going to come before the direct object, if there is one. There is not always a direct object. Okay, so we know that indirect objects come before direct objects, but also they tell to whom or for whom, or to what or for what the action of the verb is done, okay? And I'm going to explain what that means right now. By the way, you guys can be like highlighting stuff in this book. We are going to use these books more than one time, so you don't need to like put like personal information in here, okay, about like who you love or whatever, but you can underline things so that you remember and that it's actually a helpful handbook for you, okay, because that's what it's supposed to be. Okay, I understand that I'm kind of blocking the words, but it's all good. Just remember, what is an indirect object? How do you find it? This is how you find it. First, find the action verb, like always, then find the subject, then find the direct object, and look between the action verb and the direct object to find in the middle. If there is an indirect object, that's where it is, okay? Remember, it says to whom, to what, or for what the action of the verb is done. It is never in the prepositional phrases, okay? This stuff is being repeated, so that you remember. Okay, let's look. Okay, I gave Joshua the tickets. Let's go through our steps. Find the action verb. What is it? Tell me. Gave. Subject. I gave what? When you answer I gave what kind of complement is that? Direct object. Okay, I gave what? I gave tickets. To who or for whom? Who'd you give the tickets to? Joshua. So what is the indirect object? Joshua. Okay, that's how you know whether or not there's a direct whether or not there's an indirect object and what is it. Okay, now you try this one on your own. Okay, you got it? Let's look. Okay, so for the second one, tossed, which is throw, by the way, tiro, is the verb. Clown is the subject. So clown tossed what? The clown tossed candy. It did not throw Julie. Okay, so the clown tossed candy to whom? Julie and Jamie. So those are the indirect objects. Okay, let's look at another one. Uncle Jose. Uncle Jose. Hey, Jose. Sorry, you're an uncle now. Okay. Uncle Jose handed the suitcase to me. Cuidado. What is the direct object and the indirect object in this sentence? Let's look. Handed is a verb. Uncle Jose handed. Handed what? Handed the suitcase to whom or for whom? To me. Pero cuidado. Cuidado, because why? To is a preposition. That's why, you guys, they say that an indirect object is going to come between the action verb and the direct object, because if not, then it's going to probably be in a prepositional phrase that you cannot identify as a complement. Okay, so there is no indirect object here because you didn't say me in front. Now, if you did change this sentence and it says, Uncle Jose handed me the suitcase. If you said, Uncle Jose handed me the suitcase, then me would be your indirect object. Okay, indirect object, because it would come between handed and suitcase, and it would not have a preposition in front of it. Okay, another example of that I saw was, look at page 9 in your handbook on 2.26. 2.26. The note at the bottom of the indirect object. It says, in many instances, you can say the same thing by using either an indirect object or a prepositional phrase, just like you just saw right here. You could either say, handed me the suitcase, or handed the suitcase to me. Just remember that there are two different grammatical constructions. If the word to or for precedes the substantive, okay, that means that if to or for comes before it, then you know it's not a direct object. It is the object of a preposition. So look at the example here in the book. We gave God the glory. Gave is the verb, glory is the direct object, indirect object is God. But in the next sentence, we gave the glory to God. Now, God is the object of the preposition. It's inside a prepositional phrase, which is not a complement. Okay? Let's see the next one. Okay, the third type of complement that we're talking about that has to do with the action of a verb is objective complements. Okay, well, objective complements basically tell you what their definition is right there. They complete the object, okay? They complete the object, the direct object, basically, is what they're going to complete. I'll show you the definition right now. But pay close attention to this, because the reminder is, exercise 3, you need to decide if the complement is an indirect object that we just talked about, indirect object, or is it an objective complement? Okay, so we're going to see the similarities and differences right now. Okay, an objective complement is a noun or an adjective that is sometimes needed. Sometimes, that means it's not always there, even though you have a direct object. Sometimes needed in addition to the direct object to complete the sense of the verb, okay? Sometimes even the direct object doesn't fully explain what the verb is talking about, okay? Let's look at an example. By the way, I'm sorry, the information for objective complements is not in your packet, in your book, okay? In your binder, but it is in your book. It is 2.27, okay, on page 9. So like it says, we made Scott treasurer. tesorero, right? Okay, we made Scott treasurer. What is the verb? Made. What is the subject? We. We made what or who? We made Scott. Okay, so Scott is what? The direct object. But does that make any sense? We made Scott. Made him what? Made him treasurer. So treasurer, I'll show you right now. Treasurer is the objective complement because it explains what the direct object is talking about, okay? In your book, it's really interesting actually. Look at page 10. The note 1 about objective complements. You can usually identify an objective complement by inserting the words to be between the direct object and the word you think is the objective complement, okay? If to be fits there with sentido, with sense, it's probably an objective complement. Like, for example, look at this one. We made Scott to be treasurer. That makes sense, okay? We made him to be the treasurer. So that must mean that treasurer is an objective complement. I'm going to show you another example. Okay, we consider Scott dependable. Okay, consider is the verb. Consider who or what? Scott. But we don't, doesn't make any sense. We consider Scott. We consider him for what? You consider him what? We consider Scott dependable. So we think that the objective complement is probably dependable. How do you test it? Put the words to be there. We consider Scott to be dependable. So boom, now you know it's an objective complement. See? There you go. Okay, that's the objective complement. Remember then, what's the difference between the objective complement and the indirect object? Okay, the indirect object comes between the action verb and the direct object, and it is what is getting that direct object, okay? Remember an example, we gave God the glory. Gave glory to who? God. God is an indirect object. In the objective complement, it is completing the direct object, okay? We consider Scott dependable, considers the verb, Scott is the direct object, but you consider Scott what? Dependable. That's the objective complement to complete the direct object. Okay, now we're going to talk about complements that refer to the subject and at the same time complete the predication. That's the predicate, the verb part of the sentence begun by a linking verb, okay? The ones that we just talked about were sentences that have action verbs, okay? These, predicate nominative and predicate adjective, are in sentences that have linking verbs. If you look in your book, and you're going to also see it in this slide presentation, page 10 has your list of linking verbs so that you know, okay, what you're looking for. Let's go. Predicate nominatives follow a linking verb. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Look right here. Look at the second box of the linking verbs. Taste, feel, smell, sound, look, appear, become, seen, grow, remain, stay. You guys gotta think about this. Sometimes these verbs are linking and sometimes they're action. How do you know when they're linking and how do you know when they're action? Because you have to be careful. If you think they're linking when they're really action, then you can say something is a predicate nominative or a predicate adjective and it's really not, because that verb is not a linking verb, okay? Excuse me. So, think about it. Look at the first word, taste. Taste. I could say, I tasted the coffee. That's an action verb because I tasted something. I really was tasting it. Okay, in that case, it would be probando it. Okay, I was probando the coffee. Taste is now an action verb. But if I say, that tastes raro, that tastes weird. Okay, then it's not an action verb anywhere. I'm not tasting weird. It's the thing that I was tasting had a sabor that was raro. That tastes weird. Now it's a linking verb because it's not actually doing an action, okay? Grow. I'm growing a garden. That's an action because I'm actually growing something, okay? I planted it, I'm growing a jardín. But if I said she grew tall, okay, that's a linking verb because now it's not describing an action, it's describing how tall she is. Smell, same thing. I smelled the flower. Action verb, and flower is the direct object because it's actually an action. I'm smelling the flower. But if I say, ooh, this room smells bad. Okay, the room is not actually smelling anything. The room doesn't have a nose. The room has a smell. So then it's a linking verb. Okay, just to clarify that. Okay, so now that we know what our linking verbs are, and as our was, were, be, being, been, and then our other ones that sometimes can be linking and sometimes can be action. Let's look at more at what predicate nominatives are. Predicate nominatives rename or explain the subject, okay? Like, for example, we have Mr. Walker is my neighbor. Keep that sentence in mind while we see these definitions. So predicate nominatives rename. Also, predicate nominatives answer the questions who or what, okay? So we can assume that in this sentence right here, Mr. Walker is my neighbor. We're looking for the part that explains who or what is Mr. Walker, right? Let's look. Okay, this is how you find the predicate nominative. Find your linking verb. So now instead of for direct objects and indirect objects, you don't find your action verb. You find your linking verb. So hint, 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 by the way, in your exercise 4, where you need to identify whether or not it's a direct object or a predicate nominative, the first thing you need to do is decide whether or not your verb is linking or helping, and then that's going to help you decide. Direct objects go with action verbs. Pardon, linking or helping. Linking or action. Direct objects go with action verbs. Predicate nominatives go with linking verbs. So here we go. Find your linking verb, find your subject, then say the subject and verb together and ask who or what after this verb to find the predicate nominative. Never look in a prepositional phrase, like I mentioned 10 bazillion times now. Also, to check it, replace the verb with the word equals. So, in objective complements, you use the words to be. In this case, you can use the words equal. Let's try that. Okay, Mr. Walker is my neighbor. First step, find your linking verb. Is. Second step, find your subject. Mr. Walker. Put them together and ask who or what. Mr. Walker is what or who? Neighbor, okay, check it by replacing the linking verb with the word equals. Mr. Walker equals neighbor. Does that make sense? Yeah, he is the neighbor. So neighbor is the what? Neighbor is the predicate nominative. There you go. Mr. Walker equals neighbor. Okay, let's try another one. Jan's favorite composers remain Bach and Mozart. Remain is one of your possible linking verbs or action verbs. In this case, the composers remain is something that they remain in a place. So it's not an action, it's a linking because they remain somebody. Okay, look what it says. Jan's favorite composers remain. What's the linking verb then? Remain. What's the subject? Composers. Composers remain what or who? Bach and Mozart. Okay, so we think Bach and Mozart are probably the predicate nominatives. Let's test it. Favorite composers equal Bach and Mozart. So we are right that they are predicate nominatives because composers equal Bach and Mozart. Let's look at another one. Sally is not here. What's the linking verb? Is. What's the subject? Sally. Sally is what? Well, Sally is not here, but Sally equals not here? No. So do we have a predicate nominative? No, we do not. We don't have a predicate nominative because it's actually an adverb, because it does not make sense when you say Sally equals not here. Okay? So let's move on to predicate adjectives. Okay, predicate adjectives are going to be those that come after a linking verb as well and modify the subject. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, here predicate adjectives follow a linking verb, just like predicate nominatives do, but there is a difference between the two. Here, what is the linking verb? And the bride was beautiful. Was. Okay, so we can imagine right now that the predicate adjective here is beautiful. Another thing we know is that predicate adjectives modify the subject. So while predicate nominatives rename the subject, okay, they literally can just replace the subject because they're equal to the subject. Here, the predicate adjectives describe the subject, okay? They are the adjectives found in the predicate that describe the subject. So they answer the question, what kind? So what kind of bride was she? She was a beautiful bride. So how do you find it? You find your linking verb, you find your subject, and then you ask what kind. So in this one, like I just told you, the bride was beautiful. What's your linking verb? Was. What's your subject? Bride. The bride was what? What kind of bride was she? She was a beautiful bride. Okay, let's look at the next one. John appears calm at least. What is the verb? Appears. Okay, appears can be either linking or action. Well, in this case, it appears. It's not like he appeared in the night, okay? John appeared at my door. Okay, well, if he appeared at your door, then it's an action, but he appears calm. Okay, it has a description afterwards, so it's a linking. Appears is your linking verb. John is your subject, so John appears what? What kind of appearance does John have? A calm appearance. So calm is your predicate adjective. And then the last one, Steve tasted the cake. What do you think about that one? I'm going to show you. Tasted the cake does not have a predicate adjective because tasted in that case is not that he tasted funny, he tasted good. No, Steve tasted the cake. He for real tasted the cake. So that is an action and not a linking verb. And because it's an action and not a linking verb, there cannot be a predicate nominative or a predicate adjective. What is cake then? In this case, cake is the direct object because he tasted. He tasted what? The cake. Okay, I understand that was a lot of information. So just to review really quickly and using your exercises to review, look at exercise 3 again. You are discerning between indirect objects and objective complements. Okay, so remember, indirect objects come between the action verb and the direct object because it's whatever the direct object is going to, right? Objective complements complete the direct object. So they give a little bit more information so that the direct object makes sense and the verb makes sense. Exercise 4, you're discerning between direct objects and predicate nominatives, okay? Direct objects are going to be the ones that come with your action verbs. Predicate nominatives are the ones that come with your linking verbs, okay? And then for exercise 5, it's all of them, okay? So remember again, direct objects, indirect objects, and adjective complements are the ones that are describing the action verbs, okay? And predicate nominatives and predicate adjectives are describing your linking verbs. So I'm going to help you with number 1 on exercise 3 and number 1 on exercise 4. And I can help you with number 1 on exercise 5 as well. Look at number 1 on exercise 3. Our honor club keeps the front steps free of snow in the winter. Okay, first of all, what's the verb? Keeps. What's the subject? Club. Club keeps. Okay, check your list. Is keeps one of your possible linking verbs? No. Okay, so that must mean it's an action verb. That's good, even though actually both of these have to do with action verbs, but it's good to get in the habit of doing that. Okay, so keeps what? What's the direct object in this sentence? Keeps steps. Keeps steps what? Keeps steps free, okay? You automatically know it's an objective complement for 2 different reasons, you guys. 1, if steps is the direct object, free would have to come in front of it. It would have to come between the action verb and the direct object in order to be an indirect object. And it doesn't. It comes after. Secondly, it explains the steps more. Keeps the steps. Keeps the steps what? Keeps them free. So it's an objective complement. Okay? By the way, you can write this down if you want to. Including that one, there are 3 objective complements in that section. Okay, look at exercise 4. Number 1, Nero severely persecuted Christians in the 1st century. What's the verb? Persecuted. What's the subject? Nero. Nero persecuted. The verb is what? Action or linking? It's definitely action. There's no way that persecuted is in your linking verb list. So if it's action, it has to be a what? Direct object. Persecuted who or what? Christians. It's a direct object. And look at number 1 on exercise 5. I'm only going to help you with the first one. There's 2 in there, so don't miss that. There are 2 italicized words, okay? So you're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 things, okay? Look at the first one. He will not be a wise man. He will not be a wise man. Okay, what's your verb? Will be. What's the subject? He. He will be what? Man. Well, will be is a linking verb, you guys, so you only have 2 choices left. Either predicate nominative or predicate adjective, right? Well, remember predicate nominative. You have to replace the linking verb with equals. So let's try it. He equals man. He does equal man. Okay, he is a man. So what is man in this case? It is a predicate nominative. If it were a predicate adjective, it would describe a type of he, right? He is great. Okay, great would be your predicate adjective because he is what kind of he? Great kind of he, okay? So remember, predicate nominative is equal to the subject. Predicate adjective describes the subject. Okay, I'm going to tell you, that was the only predicate nominative in this section. The rest of the stuff, I'm not giving you any more hints. That's it. Let me know if you need any help. Bye, guys.